Hi, and welcome back to another episode of Learning Biology with Rafa, and today we will be discussing about the external and internal anatomy of the toad. So our objectives is to differentiate the external features of a frog from a toad, identify the external body parts of the frog and toad, and locate and identify each of the major internal organs of the toad. Toads and frogs belong to a group of animals known as amphibians. Most species live partly on fresh water and partly on land. These animals have moist skin with no external scales, and they have the head and trunk joined in a broad depressed body. They have no tail, short forelimbs, and long hind limbs, and eardrums are exposed. Since frogs and toads are both amphibians, they are similar in many ways, but there are also differences. To be more accurate, toads are actually a classification of frogs, meaning toads are a kind of frog. Frogs spend most of their lives in or near water. Toads, on the other hand, lives mostly on land. Frogs also usually have longer legs and moist slimy skin, while the toads have shorter legs and dry bumpy skin. Another way to spot the differences between frogs and toads is that frogs have brown spots that are not found on toads, while the toads have parotoid glands that are not common among frogs. The difference between males and females. Like any other organism, they have different gonads for the production of egg and sperm in both sexes. But for the frogs and toads, their sex organs are found within their bodies, making it hard to determine the gender of the frog and toad. Good thing we have a great teacher, Miss Maria Cherian Gargonio, in helping us to determine which sex is which. For the size, females are significantly larger than the males, as it accommodates the amphibian mating process called the amplexus. The amplexus is a type of mating behavior exhibited by some externally fertilizing species in which a male grasps a female with his front legs as part of the mating process while he fertilizes the egg as they are released from the female's body. The males are smaller so that during fertilization his weight does not crush on the females. Another difference is the tympanum. The tympanum is considered as the eardrums of the frogs, and in the picture, the tympanum of the males are much larger compared to the tympanum of the females. The female's tympanums are of the same circumference to its eyes. Another feature is the enlarged thumb. One way to determine whether the frog or a toad is male or female due to its enlarged thumb, which all males have. During breeding seasons, the first finger of the males develop to become gripper pads to grip at the back of the females for the amplexus to occur. Male frogs and toads develop a dark throat color during mating season that sets them apart from the females. Moving on to the external body parts of the toad. The animal's body is divided into two regions, the axial and the appendicular region. The axial region is composed of the head and the trunk. In the head of the axial region, you will see the snout, the external nares or the nostrils that functions for breathing air, the eyes that are divided into the upper and lower eyelids, and the transparent covering called the nictitating membrane, which helps cleanse the eyes when the frog or toad travels underwater. The tympanic membrane or the eardrum of the frog, which the frog or toad uses for sensing vibrations to hear sound. And lastly, the brow spot. The brow spot is a tiny white spot at the mid-dorsal part of the head between the two eyes. The brow spot is very distinct to frogs, not in toads. In the trunk, it is divided into two regions, the thoracic and the abdominal region. The thoracic region or the chest region is the anterior half of the trunk. In this region of the toad, it is where the parotoid glands behind the tympanum are located. Their main function acts as a defending mechanism against their predators as it secretes poison. The abdominal or the lumbar region is the posterior half of the trunk that includes the anus and the sacral hump. For the appendicular region, it is composed of the forelimbs and the hind limbs. The forelimbs are the anterior appendages of the frog and composes of the upper arm or the brachium, the middle forearm or the antebrachium, the carpus or wrist, the hand of the frog or the manus, the fingers or digits that are 4 in numbers, and the prepollux or finger. The hind limbs are the posterior appendages of the frog and composes of the thigh, the shank, the tarsus or ankle, the pes or foot, the toes or digits that are 5 in numbers, and the web. The web is a membranous extension of the skin which allows the frogs or toads to swim on water because it acts as paddles, and the prehallux or the sixth toe and sometimes are missing. Moving on into the internal anatomical structure of the toad, the internal body parts of the toad and a frog consists of two body cavities or two coelomic cavities, the pericardial cavity and the pleuroperitoneal cavity. The pericardial cavity is a small cavity that holds the heart, and it is located in the thoracic or chest region. The heart is a hollow, pear-shaped muscular organ that is located in the body cavity. It composes of three chambers. The ventricle functions on pumping out both oxygen-rich and oxygen-poor blood to the entire body, and it contains chambers that inhibits the mixing of the blood. The left atrium receives oxygen-rich blood from the lungs, while the right atrium receives oxygen-poor blood from the surrounding organs. The pleuroperitoneal cavity is the cavity where it holds most of the organs of the viscera. It is in this cavity where the peritoneum is found. The peritoneum is epithelial tissue that enfolds all the visceral organs suspended in the cavity. The following organs are the organs found within the cavity, and we will discuss each of these organs. The first organ is the lungs. The lungs are pairs of big thin wall sacs that function as the primary organs of breathing. The liver is the largest gland in the body. It is reddish-brown in color and functions for the production of bile. It is divided into the right, left, and the median lobes. The gallbladder is a rounded sac that functions as storage of bile being secreted by the liver, and it is located in the ventral surface of the median lobe of the liver. The stomach is a bag-shaped, muscular, slightly curved sac that secretes gastric juices and mechanically breaks down food for digestion. The stomach has two regions. The cardiac region is the wider anterior portion that joins the esophagus, and the pyloric region is a narrower posterior portion of the stomach located near the pyloric sphincter. The small intestines are long, narrow, coiled tubes that function also for digestion and absorption of nutrients in the body. The small intestine has two portions. The duodenum is the anterior portion, while the ileum is the posterior coiled portion. The pancreas is the long, thin, irregular yellowish organs that produce digestive enzymes needed to break down the food in the small intestines. The large intestine is a straight, club-shaped, usually dark-colored tube that continues with the ileum of the small intestine. Its anterior portion is the rectum, and the posterior narrow portion is the cloaca. It is in the large intestine where the waste products are stored and solidifies before it releases in the anus. The urinary bladder is a membrane-like bilobe sac that stores waste before it is secreted. It is located at the ventral posterior end of the large intestine. The spleen is a rounded dark red gland that filters mostly of the red blood cells, and is embedded in the mesorectum. The mesorectum is the organ which is suspended in the large intestine to the dorsal body wall. The kidney is a flat, elongated organ, dark brown in color, and functions in the filtration of body fluids. The testes are a pair of oval or elongated cylindrical yellowish bodies that secretes the male gametes needed for reproduction. Fat bodies, also known as corpora adiposa, are the finger-like yellowish bodies that stored energy needed for hibernation, metamorphosis, and for mating. The ovaries are the dark organs sometimes filled with eggs that produce the female gametes needed for reproduction. When the ovaries are not filled with egg, they become small, flattened, pale, and irregular-shaped organs. The oviduct are a pair of white coiled tubes that carries eggs to the cloaca of the females. While the oviducts are significant to the females, males on the other hand contains these organs but gives no function. Moving on to the next exercise called respiration and breathing. So our objectives is to examine the different parts of the toad's respiratory system, describe the mechanisms of breathing under different conditions, and to observe the relationship of oxygen and carbon dioxide levels to breathing rate. Respiration allows the exchange of gases between the external environment and the body, since it provides oxygen and removes carbon dioxide from the tissues. It is different from breathing, as breathing involves the process of inhaling and exhaling the air in and out of the lungs. While breathing, oxygen is inhaled and carbon dioxide is exhaled. Respiration is a process of breaking down glucose to produce energy, which is used by the cells to carry out the cellular function. Respiration is also responsible in regulating the appropriate acid-base balance of the blood that involves a process called pulmonary ventilation or breathing. Toads allows the exchange of gases with the external environment through respiratory surfaces such as skin and lungs. The thin membranous skin of the toad enables the diffusion of the gases between its blood vessels and the surroundings. This is called the cutaneous respiration. They are also capable of pulmonary respiration, which allows the exchange of gases in and out of the lungs. Similar to humans, toads and frogs also have their respiratory tract and refers to the larynx. The larynx is a round or ovoid structure with a cartilaginous wall in which the frogs produces their croaking sounds by passing air back and forth over the larynx. The larynx is also called the voice box or vocal cords. The glottis is the slit opening of the larynx. It is the opening from the mouth and into the lungs, which participates in the flow of air in and out of the system. The vocal cords are a pair of delicate white bands, each located at the side of the glottis, and it is the vocal cords where the sound is produced by the vibrations. The lungs are a pair of big thin wall sacs located at the anterior portion of the pleuroperitoneal cavity. It is the site of pulmonary respiration. The visceral pleura is the thin outermost covering of the lungs, and it is lined with a simple squamous epithelium. The alveoli are small thin walled chambers, and it is the site of gas exchange, as they are located within the lungs. They are richly supplied with blood capillaries, making them the site of gas exchange. The bronchi are a pair of short tubes from the larynx and acts as a passage of air from the larynx to the lungs and vice versa. That's it for today, and thank you for watching.